may be seated. Friends, would you pray with me and for me? Breathe on me, O breath of God, and fill me with life anew, that I may love the way you love and do what you would do. Amen. Well, Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. I'm so grateful you're here, and I'm just going to take a beat to turn around and say thank you to choir and guest musicians. We're so grateful for you. You haven't yet heard the choral anthem that I did earlier at 9 a.m., and you're in for a treat, and we're so grateful for them. And I'm grateful for you. It's good to be with you on Easter, and I wonder if there are maybe even just a few of us here for whom this is your very first Easter ever. I imagine many of you have a treasure box full of Easter morning memories. At my small hometown church, because my mind always goes back to my childhood, way back then we had a sunrise service. My father was the choir director, and my siblings and I would go to help him set up. Y'all, this was the sunrise service, and it was really early. Like, I noticed that we got there before the pastor did. And it was also cold, at least cold for South Texas, right? The last little cool snap of winter would inevitably arrive on Easter weekend. Now, I always got a new Easter dress, but without fail, I'd have to be digging in the back of my closet for my winter coat. Did any of you have to do that early this morning? And it was always a great irony because I had been wearing shorts and t-shirts for so long, but there I was setting up folding chairs on the church lawn, wearing a coat that felt out of place. Now, one can appreciate that there is a lot that goes into a morning like this: planning worship, practicing the music, all the details that go into an Easter festival with egg hunt and food. And you won't be surprised that for the staff, one ongoing topic of conversation that took a lot of time and energy was the weather. How cold is it really going to be? Is it raining? Is the rain really coming? If so, when and how much, and when will it stop? And it is one thing, it's one thing to speak of the weather outside. But this morning I'm wondering about the weather that stirs within you. Worry about the future, perhaps? Carrying some grief that feels incongruent with the butterflies floating up above? Now, we sing about this Easter joy, but when we hold it up against all that we carry inside, it might feel like a mismatch. Our collective human story so far this year has been kind of rough. Wars, rumors of more, violence claiming the lives of children, economic concerns destroying lives, climate justice pushed to an even more distant back burner, people of color detained for no other reason than the clear sin of racism. You watch the news. Heads of state speak passionately about a version of Christianity that we don't even recognize. And then there is perhaps your own personal life. Now, maybe for a few of you, all day, every day is good vibes only, all the time. But given what life is, someone here is living with the unexpected diagnosis, the relationship that feels broken beyond repair, the fear after a loss that you will never know what it means to be happy again. Any number of experiences that are the embodiment of a dreary, gloomy night. If the weather in your heart and soul feels out of sync with the promise of Easter, you aren't alone. Because this being out of sync is kind of a human experience. And the promise is that we aren't alone. The experience can even be found in the Easter story. Let's take a look. We're in Matthew's gospel, and the women go to the tomb, and when they arrive, the lifeless body of Jesus is nowhere to be found. And here's a good detail to catch. There are men at the tomb, but these are not disciples, not in Matthew's gospel. These are guards that are there working on behalf of the empire. They are asked to keep watch because Jesus threatens the very existence of empire, and the powers that be know it. Those women also knew it. They knew the fear of corrupt power. They also knew the joy that Jesus comes to give. Empire is a machine fueled by greed, but Jesus practices and preaches, "Blessed are the poor, and woe to you who are rich." Empire is enamored with war, but Jesus is the Prince of Peace. Empire has no compassion for who is harmed as they seek to dominate and control. But Jesus gathers the children and says, "To such as these belongs the kingdom." Empire denies when they've crossed the line, but Jesus flips the tables of those seated in positions of unchecked power. It is no wonder that the rulers of Jesus' day wanted to silence him. And it is no wonder that the rulers of this day want to twist his message in some attempt to justify their obsession with violence and destruction. Jesus was crucified. But apparently, even in death, even Jesus' lifeless body was still a threat. So guards were hired and given strict instructions to keep watch, to make sure there's no funny business taking place at the tomb. But the guards, they fail. The body goes missing. The angel announces Jesus is not here. He has been raised. And friends, this is God's great reversal. Jesus is alive while the guards appear lifeless, collapsed to the ground. Empire seeks to kill the one who comes in the name of love, but love lives anyway. And the ones who try to silence this love fall and are rendered useless. Now the parallels to our lived reality today are all too real. So what are we to do? I know that as I consider my own faith journey, I tend to gravitate into a couple of different directions. One is a snarky and punchy kind of faith, as if to say nanny, nanny, boo-boo, and take that to the powers that be in this world. And there's something therapeutic to that, perhaps, but not maybe ultimately the most helpful. The other approach I tend towards is a despairing kind of faith, as if I'm trying to convince myself that love really wins and that peace prevails while mostly floundering and falling into hopelessness. But Easter faith, the faith of Easter, invites us into a different way of living, extends a different invitation. And that is to step into the space between the already and the not quite yet. Already God, through Christ, has proclaimed that death does not have the final word. Already has declared that love is stronger than hate, that goodness is stronger than evil. Already. And not yet. Because when we woke up this morning, the world still is what it is. The fullness of God's beloved community has not yet arrived, not fully. And on this fragile planet, we are not yet all okay. But like the women who carry both joy and fear in their hearts, we can sing Alleluia anyway. not as a dismissive denial of all that's hard, but as a stubborn hope and trust in the resurrection, convinced that the worst things will never be the last things. As sure as the sun rises each morning, we can be assured of the promises this day holds. The Easter story. The Easter story, with its already and not yet invitation, is a difficult story to believe if you need a nice resolution. But it is an easy story to enter if you find yourself in an Alleluia anyway sort of existence. If you find yourself saying that you know in spite of it all, there is still love, there is still singing, there is still laughter and mercy and many, many good things. As Jillian shared in the children's time, our sermon series throughout the season of Lent leading up to this Sunday has been Tell Me Something Good. And so in the mornings, we heard from various church members in our community share that in spite of the hard news in the headlines, they had joy in their hearts. Ben finds joy in volunteering with our Open Door Feeding Ministry. Arlene enjoys delivering flowers to the homebound with her precious daughters in tow. Taylor is a school teacher, creating safe space for queer students in her classroom. Our tween-age children, Amelia and Addie, discover friendships right here and a sense of belonging at UUMC. Brian shared how his art is not just a creative outlet, but it is a life-giving and life-saving gift in these times in which we live. You are the ones who know how to live in the space between already and not yet. You know how to do this, and the world needs people who know how to live in that way, people who stand in the expansive space of imagining what could be, participating in God's great reversal, tipping the world a little more towards goodness and beauty. I'm so glad that our Sunday mornings begin in that way. Tell me something good. Because there is something about the morning, isn't there? Weeping may last through the night, declares Psalm 30, but joy comes in the morning. When the women went to the tomb, it was as the dawn was breaking. Earlier this year in January actually, Singing Resistance was birthed as a grassroots and nonviolent movement in Minneapolis. Some of you may have heard of this group. It's a group of beautiful human beings who use group singing as a way to protest the ICE operations and advocate for justice. One of the songs, written by Heidi Wilson, sings of the promise of a morning. Hold on, my dear ones. Here comes the dawn. Singing. More good news was shared in worship by Anisha, one of our choir members. She shared with us something good just recently in worship, reminding us that something wonderful happens when we sing in community. It's a scientific fact, we're told, that it's as if we're getting on the same wavelength, bolstering our hope, increasing our joy, strengthening our capacity to participate in God's great reversal. I've asked AV to come forward and lead us in one of those resistance songs. And we're going to sing it with one another. And we're going to sing it for one another, for all who walked into this sanctuary this morning with worry or grief in their hearts. We're going to sing it for the world, for all beyond these walls who long for a home that is free of harm and full of joy. We are going to sing for peace, with Easter joy of the already and not yet planted in our hearts. Let us sing. A.B.
I'll sing all the way through it, and then feel free to join when you're ready. Hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold dawn. Hold on, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold on, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Sing to someone across the aisle. Hold on, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Sing to the balcony. Hold on, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the... Sing to the person right next to you. Hold on, hold on, my dear ones, here comes. Sing to someone older or younger than you. Hold on, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the... Last time, biggest time. Hold